Coming up on Network Africa, United Nations accuses Ugandan and Rwandan armies of supporting M23 rebels in the Democratic Republic of Congo. South African Weather Services issues alert for very low temperatures across Johannesburg this week. And the United Nations Human Rights Chief investigates mass grave on the Libya-Tunisia border. Welcome everyone to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. UN experts say Uganda is backing M23 rebels fighting across its border in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, warning that a rapidly escalating crisis carried the risk of triggering a wider regional conflict. The well-armed M23 is often accused of being a Rwandan proxy force, but the UN experts have put forward evidence to suggest that it also has Uganda's support. Uganda has denied the allegations in the UN report that also accuses Rwanda of having up to 4,000 troops in DR Congo fighting alongside the rebels. According to Rwanda, the DR Congo government lacks the political will to resolve the crisis in its mineral-rich east, which has witnessed decades of unrest. The 2093-page report covers events of up until mid-April and has just been published. Meanwhile, let's speak with security and defense analyst David Otto for more on this. David, glad to have you on the program today.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Right, so quick one. What do you make of the UN report revealing that Uganda is also supporting the dreaded M23 rebels in the DRC's eastern region?
Yes, I mean, this is quite disturbing from the Ugandan point of view. I mean, one of the military spokesmen of the Ugandan military has denied these accusations, saying that, it is false and it is baseless. But of course, it's not the first time that, Uganda is being accused, of actually supporting M23 rebels. This time is coming from the United Nations, talking about the fact that this is some kind of a joint affair between Uganda and Rwandan forces supporting M23 rebels. But according to previous accusations that we've had before, the Congolese government themselves, had accused the Ugandan forces during the 1990s. I mean, to a point where, Uganda had to pay reparations, which was set up by the International Court of Justice in 2005. And as of 2022, about 65 million of the first installment of that reparation was paid. And part of that reparation was paid because, of course, the Ugandans accepted, they actually had a tacit role to play, including some support for rebels and also piloting, some of the resources in DRC Congo. So it's not the first time, but it comes at a time when Ugandan and DRC Congo troops, are fighting a common enemy. That is the rebels linked to the Allied Democratic Forces. But of course, also some of the M23 rebels. So it's a bit of a complex, revelation, which, would muddy the waters between these two countries.
You have just put, has, continued to deny this, so has the Rwandan military, which has also constantly denied backing the M23. Looking at the volatility of that region, how is that these rebels seem to be thriving and gaining ground?
I mean, that's the big question. I mean, M23 rebels and all the rebel groups, that, have infested this particular northern part of Kivu and Ituri province, they've always been seen to have a huge support, especially after the accusation by the UN that, about 3,000 to 4,000 Rwandan troops have been embedded within the M23 rebels. Of course, Rwanda has always denied this accusation. But what makes these groups survive and sustain is, of course, something to do with the amount of support that they get.
And a quick one again, David. Burundi's military was also mentioned here, saying that the military had been involved before in the past supporting the DR Congo against the M23 rebels. And, there's concern that this might be, have grave consequences for the wider, exacerbate regional tensions. What's your take on this?
Yes, of course. I mean, if, these issues are not dealt with, appropriately, we would have a situation where there will be a wider implication in the region. I mean, this region is always been a very volatile region. There's been a point at which the DRC Congo administration and authorities, went to the point of declaring that they could invade Rwanda because of the support that was being given upon them. So it's quite a volatile situation.
Right, David, let me just let you go there. Thank you so much for being on the program today, and thank you for those explanations. Moving on, disaster risk officials are on high alert as another cold front hits South Africa. Heavy rains have caused havoc across the Western Cape province since the start of this week, with roads and thousands of homes, mostly in informal settlements, flooded. Approximately 5,000 people in the informal settlements located in Khayelitsha have been impacted by the severe weather conditions. The City of Johannesburg's Disaster Management Center is advising residents to layer up, stay indoors and monitor weather reports as a cold front continues to blow over the country. The South African Weather Services has also issued an alert for very low temperatures across the province this week. And for more on this, we are now joined by the Executive Director of Development Action, Moxian Hendricks. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
How has the recent cold front and resulting heavy rains impacted the ongoing challenges faced by informal settlements in South Africa, particularly in terms of housing, security and infrastructure resilience?
Yeah, I think we are all, across the city, across the metro, we are impacted by the severe drop in temperatures. But it's in particularly people living in informal settlements who are mostly impacted. And to the extent that quite a number of households were displaced as a result of, high velocity winds, and of course, the incessant raining has led to a lot of flooding. And I think the biggest challenge of the displacement of these informal settlement dwellers is the finding of alternative accommodation in a very short turnaround time. The City of Cape Town, in collaboration with other relief organizations like the Gift of the Givers, are out there. There's a lot of coordination, there's a lot of calls for support. But the challenge is, like I said, finding the alternative accommodation in the short term. And it's tough. I mean, it's cold in a formal structure, but being outside, it's quite a challenge.
Right, and to get over and above this challenge, what measures should disaster risk officials and organizations take in providing immediate relief and support to the approximately 5,000 people affected and other areas that you also mentioned?
Yeah, I think the way Development Action Group is positioned itself over the years is to be more proactive in terms of our response to growing informalities in our cities. And I think this is what's required. It's a more long-term approach to it. We are going to find that once, storm settles, that those households are going to rebuild in the same place. And so we have to ask ourselves a number of questions. One, is the land suitable for habitation? Are we going to build in the same way? Are we going to take into accommodation that next year we will encounter the same severe storms? So how do we do that differently? And Development Action Group, we position ourselves around how do we deal with the issue of access to land And often, poor people settle on really marginal land that is prone to flooding. So how do we position ourselves in relation to land, allow land to be released that is more habitable, and make sure that we have the necessary infrastructure to cope with what is going to be more severe weather as a result of climate change. So the intention is how do we build resilient communities within informal settlements that are able to mitigate the impact of natural disasters. The other thing is about our focus is a lot on informal settlement management. So I think for us there it is about not just a reaction to disaster, but how do we on a sustained basis involve communities, local communities living in those settlements to support and enable them to manage their own informal settlements. So it's a long-term, but also a sustained involvement in that. I think go ahead.
Yeah, just finish your thought.
Yeah, so I think the other point I want to make is that, it does require a more integrated approach. So different spheres of government and different departments within the local government need to come together. So it's not just a disaster management response. It's a more holistic, integrated approach to kind of putting in place necessary measures on a sustained basis.
And how often, does this area or any area in South Africa that experiences, such severe weather, how often does this happen in a year?
Yeah. Look, I think our winter seasons are particularly prone to flooding and high winds. So it is an annual occurrence. So there's some predictability to it. In the summer, we have, the opposite where because of high temperatures, a lot of those settlements are prone to fires. So we do need to, think differently about how we support the settlement of households who are unable to access affordable housing through the market. So they go to the informal market, and we need to see how do we support that in a more managed way and put in place necessary mitigating measures to protect those households against flooding, strong winds and fires.
Right. We must thank you for your time today, Director of Development Action Group, Merksin Hendricks. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Let's move on. A Spanish tourist has been trampled to death by elephants after climbing out of his car to take pictures of the herd at a game reserve in South Africa. According to police, the unnamed 43-year-old man was visiting Pilanesberg National Park on Sunday morning with his fiancée and 2 other people when the attack happened. The group had been driving around in their own vehicle before spotting 3 elephants with 3 calves. Officers say once the man got out of the car and walked towards the herd, the matriarch became agitated and charged at him. Local media reports that he was taken to hospital but died of his injuries. The group of people he was visiting the park with, all residents of Johannesburg, were unharmed. And still to come on the program. Algeria holds horse riding festival for its independence anniversary. That's in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. The United Nations Human Rights Chief says his office is following up on reports of a mass grave discovered in the desert along the Libya-Tunisia border, giving a speech where he denounced a series of disturbing developments in Libya. Volker Turk told the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, Switzerland, that in March, at least 65 migrants' bodies were discovered in a mass grave in southwest Libya. He is urging the authorities to respond swiftly to UN inquiries and to investigate the crimes and violations against migrants and refugees.
Here, a mass grave was discovered in southwestern Libya containing at least 65 bodies presumed to be migrants. As if this were not horrific enough, we are following up on reports of another mass grave recently discovered in the desert area at the Libyan-Tunisian border. I urge the authorities to respond swiftly to our inquiries and to investigate these crimes fully. The loved ones of those who died have every right to know the truth, and the responsibility for investigating these crimes falls squarely with the Libyan authorities. We are seeing widespread human rights violations against migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers. The dehumanization of these individuals who are in a vulnerable situation continues to take place at the hands of both state and non-state actors, often working in collusion. Trafficking, torture, forced labor, extortion, starvation in intolerable conditions of detention, mass expulsions, the sale of human beings, including children, perpetrated at scale with impunity. I urge the Libyan authorities also to adopt a comprehensive legal and policy framework on refugees and migrants that is in line with Libya's human rights and refugee law obligations. I also call upon the international community to review and, if necessary, suspend cooperation on asylum and migration with those authorities involved in human rights violations.
Nigeria and the European Union have for long worked together on many fronts to the benefit of both parties. This time, they're strengthening the partnership through the Nigeria-EU Innovation Days Conference, which aims to catalyze further momentum on research and innovation cooperation between Nigeria and the European Union at a two-day conference in Lagos.
This is the Nigeria-EU Innovation Days Conference, and it is the first edition holding at the Landmark Event Center in Victoria Island, Lagos. The government representatives, delegation from the European Union, young entrepreneurs, as well as the youth in Nigeria and across Africa are in attendance.
The European Union will support the government's initiative to roll out the 120,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable across Nigeria, and we look forward to working together on digitalizing government services, which is a notable plan of this administration.
We understand that innovation thrives on collaboration, so partnering with international organizations and governments opens partnerships between international organizations and government opens new avenues for knowledge exchange, technological transfer, and joint ventures. These collaborations enhance our innovation, our capacity, and ensure that we actively participate in global technological advancements.
The two-day Nigeria-EU Innovation Days event is a platform that opens up opportunities for representatives of both parties and engender closer ties for growth.
The establishment of robust RDI and STI ecosystem is not merely an ambition. It is a necessity. We are committed to ensuring that Nigeria becomes a hub for innovation in Africa. This involves not only fostering a culture of innovation, but also providing the necessary infrastructure and support system.
The European Union Policy Officer for Science, Technology and Innovation with Africa, Vincenzo Lorusso, assures that this initiative will stand the test of time.
Research and innovation by nature are collaborative and by nature are international without borders. Research and innovation cannot be done, cannot lead to breakout through overnight. Are enduring efforts that require indeed collaboration. And as such, I believe and we believe they provide an opportunity for a sustainable and as equitable as possible partnership between Africa and Europe.
This conference, amongst other things, aims to explore how entities can continue to drive innovation by providing crucial resources, mentorship, and networking opportunities in Nigeria and the European Union.
In the meantime, the United Nations Development Programme, Timbuktu Africa Innovation Foundation, in collaboration with the federal government, have launched the Innovation Centre Timbuktu Fintech Hub in Lagos. As one of Timbuktu's 8 thematic hubs to be set up across Africa, the UNDP Timbuktu Fintech Hub will address complex challenges and promote inclusive growth, accelerate sustainable development throughout the continent.
Timbuktu is described, I think,
it's a journey towards innovation and economic growth in Africa. As the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, in collaboration with the Timbuktu Africa Innovation Foundation, and the federal government are set to launch the first Pan-African Fintech Hub in Lagos. This move, starting in Lagos, aims to explore the potential of financial technology in driving financial inclusion and sustainable development in Africa.
There is a sweet spot that we're looking for in Timbuktu. It is that spot where technology and talent meet financing and create impact.
Timbuktu's vision includes establishing 8 thematic hubs across Africa. The former Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, who is the guardian of the Timbuktu Africa Innovation, gives insight into how this will strengthen the local and regional fintech ecosystem across the continent.
The whole point is to create an ecosystem, practically in every country, that specializes in something. And then, of course, link up all individual ecosystems into one massive ecosystem for the whole of Africa. Then we intend to have a virtual hub as well, one that is, of course, borderless, creates opportunities across borders.
This is a very small selection.
Adding to the excitement is the onboarding ceremony for the 2024 cohort of the FinTech Timbuktu Startup Accelerator Program. Over 800 applications from 47 different countries were received, but only 42 startups from across 33 African countries were selected.
These visionaries are poised to reshape the future of development, but in particular, the future of fintech, bringing new solutions and groundbreaking technologies to the forefront.
If you are in a leadership position in this continent, you stay awake all night, given the multiple challenges that our continent faces, given the polycrisis that our continent faces. But every single day you wake up and see young people embracing innovation, embracing change, adapting to the demand of our time, it gives you hope.
The launch of the Timbuktu Fintech Hub in Lagos heralds a new era of opportunities for fintech startups and a brighter future for the financial ecosystem in Africa. The program will support the startups by providing them with the necessary resources, mentorship, and exposure to scale their solutions.
And finally, dozens of Algerians wearing traditional clothes rode horses and fired gunpowder with rifles during the festival marking the 62nd independence anniversary of Algeria. Horsemen in the show said their performance symbolizes the acts of Algerian resistant movements and is considered Algerian customs and traditions since ancient times. Algeria lived under French rule for 132 years until it won the independence war in 1962. Between 1954 and 1962, France waged a war against an independence movement in its then colony. Hundreds of thousands of Algerians were killed, and French forces and their proxies used torture against opponents, according to historians.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
That's our show today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.